recommended by skin experts and consumers.
Hello. Whenever I change scenes, it makes me want to update. Hey, there's actually people here in the chat already. I kind of expected we'd have a few. So welcome in, Rocket Sage and Volcano Doc. I think you might know them.
Yep.
So that's awesome to have you here. I'll give a shout out to you guys in just a bit. So yeah, and thanks for all the promo and stuff and hanging out. Oh, someone is rating already. We just started and Physics O is rating. So even before I get a chance to do like an introduction for what we're doing, hey, I don't even have to do it twice now. So thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow. Thanks for being here. Physics O, that is awesome. Thanks for the raid. Great. You came to a great chat today. So happy to have all of you here. My name is Scott, and every Wednesday I do a chat. Today I'm doing it at 4 Eastern time. Normally I do it at 9 Eastern time, and my stream is all about science games, and this chat in particular, I interview scientists, people that are into science, naturalists, and have science as part of their careers. And I really want to know kind of what makes them tick, what got them where they are, and why they're passionate about science. So, well, Physics O, thanks for stopping by, and hope you had a great stream. What were you guys talking about today in your stream? Anything in particular? I hear constant explosions, which is awesome. Thank you so much for the follows, everybody. Non-Dairy Neutrino, Serving Coder, Non-Dairy Neutrino. I've seen you everywhere on these different chats. So thanks for being here. We're just doing introductions. So Fossil Locator, why don't you introduce yourself? I've been doing a lot of talking. We're here to listen to you more than me.
Hey everyone, I am Fossil Locator on Twitter. My name is Yanan Wang. I am a writer slash geologist, and yeah, I play with a lot of rocks.
So what is your background? One of the first things I like to talk to people about is when did you first like get into like gems and minerals and fossils? Like, was that something as a kid you did, or was that later in life you kind of picked up on?
Yeah, I grew up in upstate New York and started finding fossils and minerals as a kid. So that eventually led me to geology, and I joined local rock clubs and stuff like that. And eventually I went to college at Princeton and majored in geosciences. And ever since then, I've mostly been doing rock collecting and recently started writing. And for the past about decade, I've also been doing some citizen science by providing specimens to researchers and collaborating on research.
Awesome, awesome. Now, we're both located in upstate New York. Actually had to snow blow my driveway when I got home today because I couldn't do it this morning. And I think that's a little connection we have. I'm in the Capital District near Albany. Where are you located? You have to tell me exactly, but just a general region.
I grew up in Orange County, which is west of Newburgh, east of Port Jervis, Orange, like basically the southeast corner of the state, Hudson Valley area.
Yep. Hudson Valley. That's where I am as well.
Now I live in like the Washington, D.C. region.
All right. Yep. And upstate New York is actually really good for fossils. I go up to Thatcher Park, and up there's lots of crinoids and great brachiopods and stuff like that. So, and we like to take my own children up there, and a lot of educational programs up there as well. And that's kind of my background in looking at local fossils. A lot of fossils in DC, or not so much?
Oh yeah, we're very near the Calvert Cliffs region, which has a lot of fossil shark teeth. You find megalodon teeth, you find fossil whale parts, you find all sorts of marine life there. And then if you keep going west, you eventually get to a lot of carboniferous material. You have fossil plants and stuff like that in Western Virginia and West Virginia. And I believe up by you is, so first you have the Herkimer diamonds, which are, well, we'll get to later, but further in upstate New York, you have Herkimer diamonds, you have Gore Mountain for giant garnets, and then you have the Euryptorids. Those are the three big things up there.
Now, I will say, we can get into that, but there's also up here the Gilboa Forest, as you might be aware of. That's just south of here, maybe like an hour, kind of like between me and you, a little bit to the west. That's where that ancient forest was preserved. There's been a lot of research done on that as well, which is, I believe, might still be the oldest forest on record, in the world that we know of. So little claim to fame in upstate New York again for that. So that's pretty cool, the nice natural history that we have in our own backyard. I will say Euryptorids, the state fossil for New York, not easy to find. Not easy to find. Ooh, thanks for the sub, Physics. Oh, awesome. I appreciate that. That was a gift sub. Awesome. Thank you so much. And that completely distracted me. Oh, yeah. So the Euryptorid. And when I first started chatting with you, one of the things I also like, hey, could you find me a Euryptorid so I can get it for my wife? Because she teaches earth science. And it's like, sure, $500. It easy as that. Yeah, unfortunately, they're not like crinoids or brachiopods. So.
Yeah, the Euryptorids, the majority of the ones you've ever seen on the market and in most museums are from Lang's Quarry up in Herkimer County, like literally probably 5 miles from the Herkimer diamond mining sites. And basically, this one guy, Alan Lang, back in the 70s or 80s, he went around looking for fossil deposits and found this one area had a lot of fossil Euryptorids coming out of it. So he bought the land. So he basically bought 30 acres and has been coring that by himself for the past several decades. So he's literally found thousands of Euryptorids, including 2 of the giant ones, which were like 6 feet long.
Ooh.
So he's found some huge things there.
So is that like a retirement plan? It's a retirement plan, an investment.
Oh, yeah, basically, yeah, that's his retirement plan. But he did that. There's a few places you used to be able to find Euryptorids in Western New York, near Rochester and stuff like that, but those are very sporadic.
Yep. So, yeah, I have yet to find one. Of course, I haven't been to a lot of the sites around this area as far as Euryptorids are concerned. I'm usually happy with the little things that I do find. And that is the New York State fossil. And this is where we plug your awesome book, by the way, which I'm going to ask you about. You can show yours and I'll show mine, right? We both have copies of this, right? Woo. So, I think it's a great book. Can you tell the story of, how you got that book going? Is there a background to it?
Oh, yeah. A few years ago, probably around 2014 or 2015, it's like I was thinking, there isn't really a state fossil book for kids. I mean, there was one for adults, but like it was very wordy and did not have enough pictures. So I was like, this is a perfect area for a kid's book. So I came up with a few basic pitch proposals, did a few pages as a sample, and I pitched it to Schiffer Publishing, which does a lot of various like guidebooks and things like that, and they loved it. So we signed a contract, and about a year and a half later, it's out. So yeah, and after I did that, I was like, okay, now I kind of want to write another book, and that's when I did my next book, 50 State Gems and Minerals. And this was just released this past November. So, yep. And
Very
that's
good.
how I got into book writing.
And the artwork in it's great too, by the artist. And
it's by my friend Jane Levy. Yep.
And so that's great. And I would say if anyone has kids, even if they're younger ones, as long as they're not going to chew the pages, it's a really good introductory book, like you said. Was there one, as you're doing the research for this, one story in particular about the states that kind of stood out to you?
Let's see. Well, in terms of state fossils, there's official state fossils. Then some states have official state dinosaurs, which are a separate category. And then some states have official state stone, which happens to be a fossil. So, for example, Maryland has official state fossil, which is a type of sea snail, but they also have a state dinosaur. So it's like sometimes they can have multiple things like that. As for interesting stories, I really like New Mexico's, which is the Coelophysis, and it's probably one of the most well-studied dinosaurs out there because we literally have blocks of earth with hundreds of skeletons in the exact same place. So we have a lot of Coelophysis fossils. And of course, I love New York's the Euryptorid. And Utah Allosaurus, of course, that's classic. But there's a variety out there.
Yep. I like how some of it, as a school teacher like this, some of the initiatives are led by school teachers in their classes. And that goes for a lot of these state designations for anything, whether it's state fruit or whatever. And I know some of these were kind of in that same realm where you have teachers and students kind of making an initiative to get those designated by their legislatures. So I thought that was an interesting piece as well. Also, a lot of mastodons / mammoths / various types. So that was interesting to see that.
Yep. Mastodons, mammoths, they were basically everywhere within the states back in the Ice Age. So.
Yep. Even here locally, we have the Cohoes mammoth, I believe it is, where they found one of the first ones in that area. So the county I grew up in New York, Orange County, it's known as like the mastodon capital of the world. They found over 50 mastodons throughout the county, and I know of at least
two where they were building a local road and they came across the mastodon, and they just didn't have the time, money, and effort to remove it, so they just continued building the road over the mastodon. So there are at least 2 mastodons under roads in Orange County, New York.
Mm-hmm. And Volcano Doc, mentions that how many of those gems and minerals were also, supported by kids, submitting that.
Oh, there's an interesting thing. While almost all of the fossils were supported by kids, minerals, on the other hand, at least 50% of them were proposed and supported by industry. So, like, for example, Kentucky State mineral is coal, which is not a mineral, but it was proposed by the coal industry. So you have a lot of that. And New York has a state gem, which is the garnet, which is mined by the Barton Corporation from Gore Mountain, but they don't have a state mineral, even though Herkimer diamonds should be the state mineral. But like, they proposed it multiple times, but there's not enough backing for it, so it has not become a state mineral.
Well, there we go. Maybe I should do that with one of my lab classes. We should get together and once again push for the Herkimer diamonds. Maybe if we do it jointly with a Herkimer school in that area.
They've pushed it at least 3 times. You just need enough pressure behind it to make the legislature do things.
But can you imagine if you're the legislator, though, and you're like, no, second graders, go cry. It doesn't pass. How do you not vote that in?
That happened with New Hampshire when they were trying to propose Mastodon, or Mammoth Mastodon, one of them. They tried to, a bunch of school kids tried to propose that as a state fossil, and it was brought and it was killed in committee. Basically, the legislature was like, oh, we have better things to do. Sorry.
But how do you just not? I don't know. Maybe that's just me, and I love the kids too much.
It could be worse in South Carolina when they were initially proposing the Mastodon as the South Carolina state fossil. Several of the legislatures were creationists, and they didn't like that idea unless you mentioned in there that it was like under 11,000 years old, or the Earth was under 11,000 years old, or something like that. So, there's politics.
Oh God, that's terrible. That's awful. But that is life in America. I don't know if anyone is like in this the chat right now. That's like kind of like, what, America? What? That's just weird. Why would you? But yeah, okay. And oh, by the way, if you're in chat and you have questions, please put them up there, and we'll respond to them. And
questions are welcome.
It's your chance to ask.
I'm surrounded by rocks here, so.
Yep. So if you want to share anything, we'll just keep chatting about, rocks, gems, minerals, fossils, and upstate New York.
Let's see how well this shows up.
Oh, that looks good. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So these are crinoids. You can see like several individuals. These are like about 4 different species of crinoids and a gastropod over here. Now,
that's a nice one.
These are from a world famous site called Crawfordsville, Indiana. And basically, this one deposit, there's at least 120 species of crinoids from there. And it's one of the best preserved fossil crinoid sites in the world. And they've tried proposing the crinoid to be the state fossil at least twice, and it's Indiana. So, yeah, it has not happened.
So there's a couple questions there in chat, if you can see that, if you want to respond to those. Your favorite mineral. Rocket Sage wants to know what your favorite mineral is.
Where do I find the chat screen?
You should be able to see it. Well, that one's already gone through. I'll say it for you. So, what is your favorite mineral? Rocket Sage wants to know your favorite mineral.
My favorite mineral is rhodochrosite. Actually, hold on one second. Let me grab it.
Of course, he has a sample of it. Show that to you. That's a very specific question.
Rhodochrosite is a manganese mineral, and it forms these lovely, like, Jolly Rancher colored crystals. And one of the best sites for rhodochrosite in the world is the Sweet Home mine of Alma, Colorado, which is up at about 11,000 feet in altitude. And originally it was a silver and lead mine, and at some point, someone was like, "Hey, these red things are pretty," and they started digging these. I'll put my earbuds back in. There we go. Yeah, I sort of have. I've got a little bit of everything laying around.
Here's a more specific question. Volcano Doc wants to know, what is the best way to clean dust from soluble halides?
Ooh. Air blower. A little pressure puff air can.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Question answered. No easy way to do that other than air. If it's stuck on there, too bad. What, the dust stuck to it? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Volcano Doc, you must have a sample that is, it's part of the mineral now.
Yep.
Get another sample. So, any other questions? That, or we'll just keep talking. I have my sample of mineral, my Herkimer diamonds. I put these on Twitter earlier. One of the things we like to do with my family is my father-in-law had a cabin up on Lake Ontario, and we would go up there, and on the way back we would always stop at Herkimer, and we would go mining for gems, because the kids can rent their little hammer and chisel and goggles, and you can go there. And this is like one of the bigger ones I ever found. Of course, on display there they had like these huge ones, you know. So I'm sure you have a massive one you're going to pull out right now for your Herkimer diamonds. But my kids loved it. Kids love searching for minerals. I mean, we have fun too. We're just out there, and as long as you got your sunblock on and a hat, right, you can just stay out there all day harvesting your Herkimer diamonds, right?
Yep. Here's a little one on Matrix. That's the nearest one nice. To me.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Herkimers are very interesting. I especially like them because occasionally they have the various what's the word I'm looking for? The various petroleum inclusions in there.
Oh.
It's got these weird, they're, what's the word? They're anthracite or something. It's like anthracite, but it's actually a different version of like petroleum. So, and they're in there, and at some point someone was giving a lecture on like abiotic oil formation, and it involved Herkimer diamonds, but I forgot what that was about. But sometimes you get some weird things. You have the anhydrous, which are little water bubbles inside the crystals, and occasionally you could actually have a piece of the carbon material floating in the anhydrous, so you can turn it around. It's like a little hourglass.
That is cool. Looks like we have some other questions. Are there minerals that accompany countries? So we talked about like state, minerals. Are there like minerals designated
there
for countries?
There are no official country mineral designations I know of.
Whereas we know we have like birds, like the American eagle for the United States of America,
right?
But no minerals.
Nope, not that I know of. Nope.
That's an interesting.
I mean, there are countries known for their productions of certain minerals, like Colombia is known for their emeralds, but nothing else too specific.
Yeah, Alva156 wanted, or if Wales or Scotland have any minerals for their countries. What are Wales and Scotland known for?
Scotland is known for its agates. There's a lot of nice agates there, which is a form of the mineral quartz. I actually do not know what's from Wales, but I do know in the UK, in various places, they've had a very industrial past, and so there were mines for fluoride and calcite, and there's some very nice fluorides from that region.
Very nice. Makes sense. Keep those questions coming, people. Otherwise, we just keep talking about what would be done in upstate. Now, the Adirondacks used to have a lot more garnet mines, that have since, ceased production due to various reasons. One being that people just don't like mines in a pristine wilderness. Someone's asking about your background as well. So, like, I assume probably like where you studied? You know, do you have a degree, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have a degree in geosciences from Princeton University. So I went to college already interested in geology. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to continue, just going to go ahead and major in this as well, which was it's great if you like love what you're studying. So I went on a lot of field trips to like New Mexico and California and Mexico and Morocco and stuff like that. And yep. Actually, my specialization was sedimentology and mass extinction. So I did a lot of study about like meteorites hitting the earth and climate change and all that.
All right, cool. They want to know more about your mineral dealings.
Oh, all right. So the way you get into like selling rocks is you start collecting rocks, then you're like, I want a better rock. So you get a better rock, and then you end up selling your like not so good rocks. And then you realize, hey, I made a profit on these not so good rocks. And then you buy even better rocks, and then you sell the previous better rock for more money, and it keeps going, and this eventually snowballs into a business. So yeah, I sell a lot of rocks, mostly these days, mostly minerals, but also meteorites and some fossils. And I do some collecting, but most of it comes from trade shows and connections with people with their own quarries, with their own resources, with their own leased land. For example, I have several friends in Wyoming who have their own fossil fish quarries. So I get fossil fish for them, or sometimes I actually go out there and collect fossil fish with them. I've also got friends. Recently, I made a friend in Arizona who has a lease on a peridot deposit, which is like olivine. And he just goes out there and he digs it and then he tumbles it, and I buy a whole bunch of it from him, and then I source it directly, which is how people for January's Mineral of the Month, which is my Patreon, got their specimens. I got a Patreon called the Mineral of the Month Club, and you join, and every month I send you a specimen.
Yep, and that's in the link that I put in the chat. So you have his Twitter there, that link, but you also have the Patreon as there as well. Worth the money, Volcano Doc says, in all caps. Worth
Thank
the
you.
money. So are the books, by the way. Very good, especially if you have some of that age group that's passionate. When I was a kid, I would have read that probably like 100 times, because that's what I did with books on like dinosaurs and science. I just read them over and over and over again, as do a lot of kids that eventually end up in science like us. So not uncommon. So great questions. Some bot tried to post something there that I don't know. Otherwise you got to ask permission. I don't have a real moderator here, so I have a bot doing it for me. So,
so this is what used to be a video game platform that people are now using to do science talks.
Yes, it is. And Volcano Daku is in the chat, and Rocket Sage are both excellent streamers. I look up to who do have excellent stuff. So their streams, you check them out, especially Rocket Sage for minerals. You can't get any better for your rock and mineral.
Well, I look forward to guest speaking on all y'all's.
Yep.
Various.
Yeah, and Alma said same with Discord. Discord is growing as well, since they're offering a lot more platforms. There's pretty much a Discord for anything right now. I'd be surprised if there wasn't one for mineral dealers that for some reason you're not on yet. It just seems to be.
I have not tried on Discord, because it's like Discord sounds like discourse, and I don't want to deal with any more discourse after Twitter all day. So it's like
yeah, there is a little bit of discourse, but it can be more specific to your interest, I guess.
Okay.
Kind of more like Slack, if you've ever used Slack, similar to that.
Yeah.
So where it's not like the entire world, on Twitter trying to get a hold of you and talk to you, but just a little bit more specialized. But they're a little bit harder to find though too. Yeah, Slack and Zoom in one, but better.
Yeah.
So just a little, tech talk here.
Cool.
Yeah, through that. So
I'll just keep pulling things from around my desk and showing them off.
Oh yeah,
here's a meteorite.
Please do.
This is a meteorite. It's North Branch from Kansas. And one of my favorite meteorites is actually Peekskill, which is the famous meteorite that was like filmed on video cameras back in the early 90s, late 80s. And they actually filmed it across several states, and then it crashed into a car in Peekskill, New York. And now the car, which was originally worth about $2,000, suddenly was bought by Alan Lang, the Euryptorid guy, for about $20,000.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I actually, over the decades, he's been selling off pieces of the car, even though he kept the outside shell intact. I own like 3 lug nuts from the car itself. But Alan also bought about half the meteorite, and he's sold off like small pieces of it. So I've got small pieces of that as well. But that's a classic meteorite, and it's like literally money from heaven, pennies from heaven. And that woman made a lot of money off of something that destroyed her car.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't if it could hit my car right now. I'd be thrilled if it was smashed, right? Because I know how much it's worth. That's funny. Well, and I'll also plug for New York State, at least. The State Museum has a great collection of minerals as well. So if you're ever in New York State and you want to check out our local gems and minerals, so I don't know if you have been to the State Museum. Not recently, obviously, probably, but in the past, they have a great educational selection of minerals and fossils as well. There's my plug for the state capitol. And you can see where they get all these gems and minerals from locally. And you don't think about New York State as being the hotbed for the meteorite fragments. Usually you think of out west being the place to get those when you're searching. Yeah. Now, do you travel a lot? I tell my students all the time that science is a great field if you like to travel, right? Because much of science requires you to travel.
Yeah, every year I do at least one major like cross-country rock and mineral collecting trip, and usually also do a 3-week-long trip to Tucson, which is the home of the largest rock and mineral show in the world. And every year, usually late January to early February, except this year, of course, basically Tucson transforms into this convention city, and about 55,000 people visit, and there's 5,000 dealers with everything. Fossils, meteorites, gemstones, jewelry, all sorts of minerals. Every mineral you can imagine, it's there.
So I think that's almost more of the field trip for you guys versus TwitchCon, going to that for Volcano Dock and Rocket Sage. That would be a fun trip. People geeking out over gems, minerals, and fossils. Now, when you go to dealers, though, and this is a question I've heard, I know people are interested in, how do you tell, especially with fossils, the fake from the real? Or at least how do you tell a good dealer from a bad? Is it just word of mouth? Do you check out their website? What do you do?
It depends. It's not worth checking out their website because anyone can put up a fake and it's hard to tell. With fossils, there's a lot of fake fossils. Usually, especially with fossils from Morocco, and it used to be also with fossils from China, where 80% of it was fake. But you don't see as many fossils from China these days because China enhanced their fossil laws and banned almost the export of everything. So these days there's nothing coming out. But with Morocco, you have a lot of fake trilobites. Sometimes they'll just create an entire trilobite out of resin by pouring resin into a cast and putting it onto rock. And one way to tell if something's not real is if you see 30 of the exact same fossil that look exactly the same, they're not real. Also, if you see them placed nicely and evenly spaced on the same rock, they're not real. Fossils are never evenly spaced. But even with real things, with dinosaur skeletons, most dinosaur skeletons are probably at only about 50% complete or less. So there's always filler in everything. And these days there's also fake minerals and especially fake gemstones, which have been around for a while. Actually got a fake gemstone right here. This,
Ooh, pretty.
I actually bought it because it's very, very clever. It's a fake emerald. Now, what they did is they grew artificial beryl, and then they created fractures to make it look like real emeralds and put dye into the fractures. So, like on several of my testing meters, this actually does come out as beryl, but it's fake.
Yep. So one of the ways to tell is that there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so next, there are a couple things in chat. I'd like to, thank people for helping me mod a little bit on here as I try to figure this out myself. So, or if they're all embedded in the same material, it was at Alba 156 said, if the matrix doesn't even look real, Volcano Doc was saying that another way you can tell that they're fake. And unfortunately, Albo says, I'm in my final degree year of geology and all my field trips have been canceled currently. That's just sad. Because I know in college I did a lot of a lot of traveling when I was in college for different things, and mainly biology, but that's just sad if you can't travel, especially for geology. You got to get out and see different places.
Oh yeah.
What is the rarest mineral that you have, asks Volcano Doc.
Well, probably benitoite, which, like, because we're in the US, you do see a lot of, but benitoite is extremely rare, and so is big spike, which is red beryl. Both of those, with benitoite, they don't have a cut gemstone greater than like 10 carats. So yeah, individual crystals never like range more than like about an inch, and it comes from one small deposit probably about 60 feet across in California. With red beryl, it's similar. It comes from one location that's probably only about like 20 feet wide, and there's never been a red beryl crystal over like about 50 carats, and not a cut gemstone over like 6 carats. Yeah, it's just extremely rare, and just the right combination of elements to form those deposits. And both of those are only found in the US, except for maybe like one or two places in other parts of the world where like you have microscopic minerals, but like in terms of like actual physical crystal size, yeah, those are only found in the US, and those are considered extremely rare.
Okay, so that is cool. I don't have any really rare stuff. I have these super common, the rarest stuff I have. I think the might be the any of the gemstones I gave to my wife for Christmas or an anniversary. Otherwise, pretty common stuff in my house. So, is there a particular like how do you like develop a collection? Is it just you just kind of go out and you start like just finding stuff? Do you have a specific like app you could recommend for people to use, or?
Let's see. Well, to start a collection, you sort of initially you just like collect whatever interests you. It's like, you like a particular color? Do you like a particular type of crystal? Do you like a particular mineral or fossil? And then you just start building a collection from there. And eventually you sort of like refine your interests and eventually only collect very, very specific things. And I don't actually use an app for monitoring my collection or anything like that. But one app I would recommend is the Rock D app. It's an app that shows the geologic map of wherever you are, and you can scroll around and you can tap on it. It tells you the geologic detailed formation you are on top of. So that's Rock_D on your whatever in your app store. But I highly recommend it.
All right. Yep. And let's see if we got. There's a lot of like somewhat spam going on in my chat now, unfortunately. I can't even keep track of what's going on with that, but I'm gonna have to go in here and maybe kick some people out. I don't know.
Yeah, you deal with that for a second. I'm gonna go grab a bonito
Right. You do that. Everyone needs to behave themselves. But in chat. But so I don't know if you guys saw my upcoming list of people that are going to be on. I got a whole bunch of great chats coming up for Wednesdays this coming month, and I'll go through who those people are. We got on the 3rd, Michael Lasinski is going to be here from UAlbany to talk about cybersecurity, makerspace, esports, such, and so that's next week.
All right.
Woohoo!
All right. So this is my prize bonitoite.
Ooh.
Yeah. So one of the things I do is I monitor estate auctions around the country just in case interesting things pop up. And then one day I noticed this piece in a estate auction of a rock collection up in Massachusetts. So I bid on it and I won it for a very good price. And then I actually flew up there to pick it up because I didn't trust anyone to ship it. But yeah, those are all really big bonitoite crystals.
Where is that? So, I do have some questions that
Sure.
I'm going to ask you. I have a thing I like to do on the stream. I have a little game we'll play where I have 3 questions for you. And one of those things that you have written about are the 50 state fossils and the 50 state minerals. But I'm going to ask you about some other things that the legislatures have voted on and see what you know about those, which you may have come across in some of your research as well. So, and to do that, go over here. So, this one is about the ever popular state birds. And 7 states actually have the same state bird. Which bird is it? Is it the A, turkey, B, cardinal, or C, western meadowlark?
I'm going with the cardinal.
You are correct.
Yeah, I looked into this at one point because I was considering, do I want to do a state bird book? I was like, there's only like 10 different birds. It's like the same 10 birds over and over again.
I was surprised. The western meadowlark, 6 states had the western meadowlark. So that was extremely surprising to me. Very surprising. And the next one, and you got that one right, so you're already 1-1 on this.
Hey.
All right. The state legislatures have so many pressing things to do. It was surprising that this state took the time out of their busy days of legislating to vote on a state soil. So the state soil was first proposed for the state in 1939 and eventually ratified in 2012 after what I read to be a significant legislative effort. What is the state and what is the soil?
All right. I read this somewhere, but I don't remember which state it was. But I'm guessing it was either Nebraska, Iowa, or Kansas. I'm leaning towards Nebraska, and it's probably like Loess, Loess, or something like that.
You were close. State was Minnesota.
Oh,
and it was the soil type is Lester, which I'd never heard of, but you know, it's a type of loam. I'm sure it's a type of sandy loam or something. So now it's again an industry, you know, the agriculture industry, you know, lobbied the state, you know, to make an official state soil, which I thought that maybe the legislature would have more time, but hey, I guess if you got nothing else to do in the legislature, just vote on a state soil.
Yep.
They vote on pretty much state anything, I guess. The last question: some states have state pies, state fruits, state grains. Minnesota has a state soil. Now, Nebraska has a state soft drink. Yes, milk is their official beverage, but they also have a state soft drink. Which is it? Is it A, Kool-Aid, B, sweet tea, or C, Mountain Dew?
I associate Mountain Dew with West Virginia, but I would not be surprised if it was also Nebraska. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay. The answer was Kool-Aid.
Huh.
So, yeah. I never thought it'd be a soft drink because technically a soft drink has to be carbonated, but that's what they voted it in as, and that's what it is. So, that's not a soft drink exactly, Volcano. That's what I said. Who would have thought? Not a... I don't know. You have to carbonate it usually. They could have just used that infuser thing and just gone, you know.
Yeah.
But the guy that invented Kool-Aid is from there, so they managed to put that up for a vote, and then they went in and they got it done. Is Mountain Dew a brand? So's Kool-Aid. All right, so yeah, it's like if you can get your brand ratified into the state somehow, that's always a bonus, I guess. So, so you did really good. For this, it was actually fun doing research, and you probably had the same kind of fun researching for your books, kind of like looking through the different stuff for the state, where it was fun looking at what different states value, so therefore what those legislatures have been lobbied for or have put in place within those states. So question here, I was doing this, so I missed some of the chat. What sites do you recommend for getting minerals, rocks, and fossils? Etsy e-rocks are some of the ones I've heard of. I bought some bismuth off of Amazon, which seems real, but I wondered which sites tend to be reputable, if at all.
For rocks and minerals, it's like eBay is usually fine for that, as long as your seller is not in China. Okay, I've seen a lot of fake minerals come out of China. So it's like if there's a mineral you're interested in, you can usually type it into eBay, you can usually find it, and it's like usually pretty safe. Etsy is like also interesting, but I personally prefer eBay more just because there's like more material and like it's potentially more discovery. And there's also several major sellers out there like Fossil Era or iRocks.com or the Arkenstone or Collector's Edge. There's a number of large dealers out there where like what's great about them is they're expensive, but you can use their website for reference. So you have a mineral, you type it up on their website, and you can look at what the mineral is supposed to look like and what locations it might come from. And then using that information, you could go on eBay and try to like find the material.
Mm-hmm. So I know when I've looked for fossils before, I've gone on eBay, and the good thing is, it's based on, buyer feedback, right? So a lot of those is if you give them something that they find out's fake, then they're of course going to give you a bad review, and you're not going to end up being able to sell more. And a lot of times people that are sellers, you can kind of look at all their other listings. And that's something that, you know, if you don't use eBay a lot, that's one way I know I've gone about it. You look and see what their other listings are, so you can kind of get an idea of, is this just like a one-off that they're selling? Or are they, you know, an established vendor, you know, because sometimes they'll have other, you know, Patreons or sites that you can go to look at what they do. So that's a recommendation I have, having done eBay, you know, a bit as well. So, yes. One, Mr. Hamill, eBay can be a credible source, but it could also be dangerous if you obviously get it from China, possibly.
Yeah.
Or you can just contact, you know, the Fossil Locator, and
you're welcome to contact me on Twitter, and I will direct you to my eBay store or my Etsy, or it's easier if you just tell me what you're looking for, and I'll let you know if I have it or not. Well,
even if you don't have it, you know where to get it.
Get it from. Yep.
Yep. So, now, how long have you been? I know in the earlier in the chat you might have mentioned, how long have you been like in that dealer role versus just collector?
Since high school, like 1998, I think. I've been on
since
eBay
eBay started.
Yeah, so it's like,
okay.
Yep, back then it's like I was already like collecting rocks and like going to local rock shows, and then like selling the ones I no longer wanted to buy better rocks.
Yep. I was not doing anything that interesting when I was getting out of high school. Question, do you have and this is from Volcano Doc, do you have a handheld XRF/XRD?
Not yet. I have two friends with those, for meteorite purposes, because one of the things that happens at the major shows like Tucson is you have all these people from Morocco come over, these Moroccan dealers, and they have like small piles of meteorites, and one of the games you usually, like we used to do, is like try to find out if there's a Martian or a lunar meteorite somewhere in their pile. And this actually happens at least like twice a year, where someone finds a Martian or a lunar meteorite, and you need the XRF to tell you the information and analyze it. And so I have a friend who's a meteorite dealer, and he has the scope, and he charges people $20 to like zap their rock for them, to like tell them if it's a lunar or Martian meteorite. So I don't have that myself, but I have friends with those, and I also have two completely independent friends who have scanning electron microscopes in their basements. Yeah.
So I know what a scanning electron microscope is, but the XRF, XRD, that's new to me. For us,
handheld X-ray spectrometer.
Okay, so that's an X-ray spectrometer. Okay.
Yep.
And Volcano says, how many meteor wrongs are there instead of meteorites? Ha ha ha.
A lot. It's like on Twitter. I keep my DMs open, so I welcome people like messaging me with their rocks and their meteorites and stuff like that. And in all my time on Twitter for a decade now, there's never been an actual meteorite that's shown up there. And of all the rocks people have ever showed me, we're talking like hundreds that they think are meteorites, I've only seen one that I thought might actually be a meteorite.
Oh, okay.
So you're talking at least like probably 500 to 1 in terms of like meteoroids to meteorites, probably.
Is it just like they find it and it's magnetic or something, has some property that makes them think
it's magnetic, or it looks like it melted, or it looks
whereas it's just magnetite or something like that.
Exactly, magnetite, or usually most commonly it's just like limestone with a desert patina, and voila, it looks like it's a meteorite.
Have you done that where you go out into the desert out west with your metal detector and you search for the meteorites that way?
No, it's there's just too much stuff. You'll find way too much like human junk, and you're not going to find meteorite unless you're in a known fall location where there's like been meteorites, like Holbrook, Arizona, or stuff like that.
Yep. Plus there's different varieties of meteorites. This is Alba 156 is saying this: stony, iron, and irons. So there's all different kinds.
All different kinds, and that's the hard part is we haven't found any North American lunar meteorites, even though they should be here, because they're not magnetic and they don't contain any metals. So yeah, if you're looking for a meteorite using a metal detector or dragging magnets, you're not going to find a lunar meteorite.
I did not know that, but it makes sense that would be the case and you wouldn't find it. So that's interesting. So
we've actually gotten multiple Martian meteorites in the US, so that happens.
Get on a train to Chelyabinsk to get some meteorite samples. So, well, we have plenty of fallout zones here, areas where the meteorites have come over in the US. I mentioned that because
I've seen one over Chicago a few years ago, Forest City, Illinois, and that one, those were worth like $30 a gram initially, and meteorite hunters would go around knocking on people's doors asking to check their rain gutters.
Yep. Yeah, isn't it also the case that like a certain percentage of like the dust that collects anywhere is, of celestial origin, not of the Earth? So I remember that.
Yeah, they actually did a study. Well, initially they thought it was more than there was, like where people would use magnets on their gutters or roofs and collect the dust, and then they thought they had meteorites, and someone actually did a real analysis and found only like 1 out of 500 of those were actually meteorites. The rest of it was just like human created, like metallic dust that looked like meteorites.
Right, because I actually saw it was like a project. So I was looking for projects for students that they could do at home maybe, and one was it was like you take a sheet, like a white plastic sheet in water, and like you can just wait for like a day or whatever, and it'll just collect, and then you can look and see which ones are magnetic. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, all right, how do I really know if it's not just something falling out of the sky that's up there from a power plant or something else putting dust into the air? But I guess you would need that XRF XRD to maybe make a finer distinction if that little particle was actually of celestial origin.
Yep.
Volcano Doc says, where are there places around the U.S. that people can go mineral hunting themselves? I know there's Arkansas Diamond State Park, but are there any private ones that the public are welcome on?
There are dozens. It all depends on where you are and what you're looking for. Like California, the Pala mining district outside of San Diego, there's at least 3 different outfits where like you could pay to dig through a pile of dirt and look for tourmalines and kunzites and stuff like that. Or in Utah, there's like several dig sites for both trilobites and topaz crystals. Or Arkansas, in addition to Arkansas diamonds, there's like 4 different mines for Arkansas quartz. In Georgia, there's like a site, pay to dig site for Georgian amethyst. New York, the Herkimer sites, there's at least 2 campgrounds where you can dig for the Herkimer diamonds. So in most states, there are places like this. Or Montana, I know at least like 3 different dig your own sapphire sites. So in every state, there's like, well, not every state. In most of the states, there are places like this.
Yep. Now, Adam Altogether asks, are there mineral samples that you don't have but really wish you did?
I mean, okay, there's minerals I would like bigger specimens of. I mean, I would like a really big rhodochrosite. I would like a really big diamond, of course. That I don't have. I mean, if I had the guts, I would collect radioactive minerals, but it's like, no, I don't want to take that risk. There are several friends of mine on Twitter who do collect radioactive minerals, but they have like special storage units for them. And no, it's like I have like little bits of every mineral I want.
Now we're talking about traveling and going places to find minerals. Is there a place you'd like to go?
Let's see. I went to Arkansas. I went to the Crater of Diamonds mine once. I'd like to go again. That was fun. It's really a fun place, especially if you have a background in geology, because you're surrounded by this like kimberlite and lamprolite, and it's all this like classic blue earth stuff that you read about in geologic textbooks, and you can just take chunks of like blue earth home if you don't find a diamond. So it's kind of fun. I'd like to go to Montana and collect sapphires again, though that was fun as well. Yeah.
Awesomely. And Volcano Doc wants to know what extra knowledge on top of mineralogy is required for gemology.
Ooh, the problem with mineralogy, what helps you a lot is crystal shapes, and you completely lose that in gemology because they're cut into like gemstone forms. So you have something that you don't have a clue about, and you're basically only basing things on color. So the background that helps in gemology is knowing the most popular colors of various like minerals that would form these gemstones. And then past that, you start needing tools. You need a refractometer to figure out the refractive index of the crystal. So that can help you separate, for example, quartz from sapphire of a similar color. And then recently I got a thermoconductivity meter, which measures like the thermoconductivity, how well something heats up. And that helped me separate, for example, topaz from aquamarine, which both looked almost exactly the same. So it's like you need a lot of like little tools to help you access this additional knowledge of like stuff like thermoconductivity, refraction, stuff like that.
Yep. I mean, it's the type of thing where your hobby, I could see, especially like as you started when you were younger, kind of builds. At first, you're just kind of just collecting just to collect and identifying with a book, or in this case, maybe an app or something. And then eventually you'll maybe get two samples that look similar and you're like, huh, I don't know what to do. And then that builds on either you try to figure it out yourself with a tool, or maybe you take a picture and you send it to at Fossil Locator on Twitter and ask for some assistance. And then, you know, you go from there as your hobby builds itself. Because that's usually how it works with hobbies. It starts off as kind of like a fun thing you do on the side, and then before you know it, it's a career.
Yep.
So that great questions. And you know, you wonder how people get this vast, you know, knowledge in what they do. And as with any kind of teacher or person that's passionate about what they do, you can tell. With you and with like Rocket Sage or Volcano Doc, which he talks about volcanoes, it's just eyes wide. Look at this. This is great. And I think you see that with kids when you take them, and I encourage anyone that has children, especially if they're smaller kids, you know, like, you know, 6 years old or even up, if you take them to one of those sites like the Herkimer diamond mines and you get them that hammer and chisel and you're like, look, let's find some diamonds, they'll be out there looking for them and having a good time. And as a parent, you will too. Okay, Volcano Doc says, I have yet to set up a database of my own specimens. Is there a software organization method you would recommend using?
Personally, I just say go with Microsoft Excel. If you want to go more advanced, there's several collection-based apps where like you could take a picture in addition to like putting in your data, and it saves it to an app and it forms a like spreadsheet for you and stuff like that if you want to go more advanced. Myself, it's like I just sort of like keep it all up here, but we know like in the long run that's not a great solution. So I'm still working on my own like eventual database system as well. But then again, with me, it's also like a lot of my stuff I just own it temporarily until I upgrade to a better rock. So then it's like, but at some point, what I would recommend for her and for lots of people with like their rock collections is create your own labels. Create something that says your collection, your name collection on the bottom. Because one of the things I do is I love historic specimens where I have someone's label from like the 1800s. So I could trace it all the way back. And that, I think, if you build a big enough collection, eventually you'll want this because it establishes a provenance for yourself. And there's like, you can actually go to Mineralogical Record and look at labels of famous mineral collectors throughout the decades. So recently, for example, one thing I have purchased the previous Tucson was this calcite crystal with a label from the original collector dealer, Bryce McMurdo Wright, who was a Victorian mineral dealer in England in the 1860s. And he sold it to, I believe, he sold it to Andrew Carnegie. So, and it had a label from Andrew Carnegie, and then which eventually became the Carnegie Museum, and then it was deaccessioned and sold to another mineral dealer, and then eventually it made its way to me. So I have a whole series of labels going back like over 150 years, and that helped establish provenance.
Yep, that's pretty cool. Having a little history to go along with it. I know fossils are the same way, where it says, essentially the date it was, excavated, who did it, and from, the location and any other pertinent information that goes with that. And that's fun for collectors. It's kind of like ancestry for a sample. So, great questions. Love it. I would probably use Google Sheets myself, because I'm a Google Sheet person. Because I don't need to get too advanced. Excel, I know, can do a lot more than Google Sheets, but like this computer, I don't even have Excel on it. So since my school is all Google, pretty much the rest of my life is Google as well. At the moment, you never know when that might change. So, anyways, any questions? Any last questions? Otherwise, we'll let you go. I know you got a family, and I know my family's downstairs getting ready for dinner as we speak as well. Well, I'll wait and see if there's anyone in chat. Otherwise, we are going to do what we do here on Twitch and raid somebody else. We'll see who is streaming right now. And thank you everyone for being here. Thanks, PhysicsO, when he stopped by with his raid right at the beginning. That was awesome. Volcano Doc, thank you for being here. Rocket Sage, thanks for being here. One of the things I'm going to be looking for doing on the stream is I need an actual moderator, not just a bot, to do this. You're welcome. Thank you. The way life is can suck. Thank you for being here, Adam. All together, please hang out. I am going to raid. I think we're going to go over to Professor Gamer Anthro. We'll see what they're doing today. But I think nope, they're not live right now. They were actually, there was like no one on here. Someone tell me who I should raid. There's some other people that I don't actually follow yet that we could. This was a gem of a stream. Ha 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 ha. Funny. And please stop in again. My next stream will be Friday, where I'll be playing more Subnautica. So I do play some video games on here. Subnautica is a great one. One of my students is helping me do a playthrough of that game as I chat a little bit about biology.
Cool.
And we do that. So we will Play in the Mud is on. She does pottery, right? We can look that up. And we can do that. I like learning new things. Pottery, that'd be great.
Yeah, maybe at some point I'll try this Twitch thing and try a playthrough of Sim Earth. Because
I love Sim Earth was my favorite. Before we go, back in I didn't take Earth science in school. So we didn't offer it in the school I went to, but I got the original Sim Earth. And for those of you that are too young to know this, it came with a textbook basically. I remember it had like this tome, and it had all this information on how to play the game, but it also had a description of like the axial tilt of every planet, the general size of every planet, and all this information on Sim Earth. And pretty much all of the Earth science I learned in high school was playing Sim Earth constantly for about a year back in 1993 or whenever that was. So it's funny that you mentioned that I loved Sim Earth. So that was a great game. And back when they actually sent, when you bought a boxed game and it came with stuff in it.
Yeah, huge box for this tiny disc. It's like,
yep, but it had a book in it. Like I swear, it had this book in it, and you could. One of the fun things to do with Sim Earth was actually try to turn it into Venus or Mars, because you could change the axial tilt. Right, you could change, the length of the year and everything to make it fit the criteria of Mars and see what happened. So that's a great game, and they have it online somewhere. You can find like an online version of it if you do a search for it. So awesome stuff. Thank you everyone for being here. We're going to start this raid, so we can get going, take care of dinner, at least for me, and be with our families for the evening. And I'll see everybody around. And thank you for being here. Fossil Locator, we'll see you online.
All right. Great.
Okay, please hang out, and we're gonna go play in the mud and learn some pottery, I guess. All right, let's go and do the raid. There we go. And we're there. Okay, well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by.
How many visitors did you get?
A lot. We got, when we had the raid, we had, like, he raided with like 40 people.
So that means you basically like bring your viewers onto like the next person.
Right, and we just raided this other channel, so it all comes around. Cool. And so at the end there we still had 16. So for most of it we had at least 20 or more. So that's just really good. So it helps when you have Volcano Doc and Rocket Sage are huge. They have like 10,000 followers on Twitter and crazy amounts of following. So they're awesome.